We're back, another episode of Byron Scott's Fast Break. Jay Wages, Coach Byron Scott. Today's guest is back. A Laker icon, because he don't like to be called a legend.
I know, but he is.
Yeah, I know.
He is one of the most iconic trainers.
Icon. So I've changed it to
all
icon.
Times.
Yes.
Yeah, icon. We'll just say that then.
He didn't hit
like
buzzer
legend.
beaters. He didn't throw alley-oops. But he's the man who kept the legends on the court.
Yes.
How's
Kept us
that?
healthy.
For over 32 years, he was a trainer for the Lakers, working through the Showtime dynasty, Kobe Shaq three-peat, Black Mamba, treated Magic, Kareem, Byron, Kobe, and everyone in between. Keeper of stories and the ultimate insider and storyteller, as we all know. Please welcome back Gary Vitti.
Gary Vitti.
Thank you, fellas. Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of that stuff, the iconic is for sure not. That word goes
I gotta
with
come up with
legend.
another one for next time.
See, there you go
Iconic
again.
storyteller, possibly. I'll go with you on that one. And, you know, I did my job. I tried to do my job the best that I could. Now, where I fall in that category. So, longevity.
Yeah.
Longevity.
Yeah,
How many other
longevity.
trainers in the NBA that you know of spent 30 years or more on the bench of one organization?
Of one organization?
One, not multiple 30 years in the league, but for one
Yeah.
organization.
That's hard to do. Okay?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's what with one. I mean, there are guys that were 3 decades plus, but probably David Craig in Indiana.
I remember
Because he
David,
started
great guy.
even in the ABA with the
That's true.
Pacers,
That's
because the Pacers were one of the few teams with Pacers, San Antonio, Denver,
Yep.
Jersey.
Yep.
That might be it.
I think that's it. There was only those 4 teams that went from ABA to NBA.
So guys that went, teams that went from the ABA and were absorbed by the NBA with the merger. So he was one. Prosky, I think, in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
all
your
with
buddy.
one team.
Yeah.
I think Prosky might have started with the Bulls, though. I think he was with the Bulls for a couple of years, but he still might have done 30 years with
Phoenix. Yeah, he might
with
have.
Phoenix.
Yeah, he might have. But I
Okay.
said with one team,
Yeah,
your whole
Not
career.
many, man.
Not many.
Not
Prosky,
many.
like you say, he could be an exception with him because of the fact that he might have started in Chicago for a couple, but then spent the rest of his time in Phoenix. That would probably get him 30 years. But
That's
still,
why he's an icon.
that's why he's an icon. That's
So-
why he's a legend.
I heard a story after our show aired that you made a lot of money.
And I'm about to show why.
Yeah. Tell
So
tell
guys-
them why.
So, guys,
Why?
listen.
Oh.
Gary Vitti has a book, right, that we didn't even get a chance to talk about
Yeah.
on the first episode. That's why we wanted to bring it back on the second episode, because, again, we just talked about 32 years of titles and tears from the best seat in the house by Gary Vitti. So you guys got to go get this book. Yours truly is in this book, and it's a crazy story, but yours truly is in this book. But it's a book on basically his life and, you know, all the things that he's done in the basketball.
That book
And,
looks
the-
awfully short, Gary.
This book, you know what?
Awfully short. It should
me-
be a lot bigger.
To me, this is another book or two coming, because he's just giving y'all a taste. But I'm telling you, Gary V, just talk a little bit about the book and and where to find it, and what prompts you to kind of put all this on paper.
Okay. You're right. It is a short book, okay, by design. I was approached by several book companies to write a book, but I wasn't willing to write the kind of book that they wanted me to write. Okay, you know, dirty money kind of stuff, right?
That tell all everything a lot. Yeah,
And,
Imagine if I
we don't do that.
And
Yeah.
also, the book really is not about me. The book is about the lessons that I learned from the great champions that I worked with, including you, and not just on the court, but you know, some of the stories have to do with how they handled adversity off the court, and me watching them and how they handle those things, and how I learned to handle adversity in my life. Okay? And so that's what it's about. It's lessons that I learned. There is a chapter about me, because when I did do some research with some publishers, they said, you have to write something about yourself. Okay, so they know who's talking to them.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a chapter in there about, sort of how I even ended up with the Lakers, and and it is kind of that part is interesting to people because it's kind of unbelievable. Jerry West literally picked me up at the airport when I interviewed for the job, and he picked me up in a navy blue Mercedes with tan interior, and they flew me first class. I had never flown first class before. I'd never even been in a Mercedes-Benz before, let alone Jerry West is driving it. I go to the forum for my interview, and USA is playing Spain for the gold medal in the '84 Olympics.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
like, you know what I mean? It's just these are things that don't really happen to anyone, let alone me, right? So that a little bit of that stuff is in there. The book is supposed to be short. That was also a suggestion from publishers to keep it short. There's a book that maybe your audience knows about that's called Make Your Bed. It's a bestseller, and it's about a guy that played football at University of Texas, and he became a Navy admiral. So big time guy, right?
Yeah.
Literally an admiral in the Navy after his college football career. And so they invited him back to University of Texas to give the convocation speech. And the speech starts with, having discipline and things like that, which can start when you get out of bed in the morning, make your bed. And don't just kind of throw the covers over it, but make it and make it right. Okay. And that will be your first task of the day, which will lead you to the second task, which will lead you to the third task, etc. Okay, but it starts with making your bed. The convocation speech went viral, and as a result, he put it in written form, and it was a book, and it's a very short book. And so they were telling me that's what your book needs to be. So generally, I tell people a couple times on the toilet, you'll get through it. Okay. Okay. It's a pretty easy read. Okay. And going back to
the toilet, you get through
back to the discipline thing, and I've said this to other people, you would have been a guy that could have played at West Point, Annapolis, Air Force Academy. You were that type of athlete that you were extremely disciplined. Like if you told Byron Scott, okay, this is what we're going to do today, he would do it exactly like you, if he trusted you, okay? Because not everybody can go to those schools.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you were smart enough and disciplined enough that you would have, you did pretty good going to Arizona State.
Yeah, I did all right.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, I want to ask you, we didn't get to ask you this last time. It was on my list, but that show was really long. The HBO special Winning Time. What did you think about that whole series? Did you watch it? What you think?
I was in it.
I know you were in it.
Yeah, I walked off the set.
Yeah.
Oh, you walked off the set.
Yeah.
You were on set, though. You were like one of the...
I was in 2 episodes. So the sort of the genesis of me being involved with that show was Rick Fox called me, and love Fox. He was looking out for me, looking out for them. And he said, Vitti would be a good source for you because he was there for Showtime, at least most of it anyway. And so they called me and said, can you come on down? I went to like someplace, I think it was in Santa Monica. I was there for a few hours, and I was writing the book at the time. And so I said, listen, I can talk to you guys about it, but just get the book, And so they appreciated the time that I spent with them. And they had all these pictures on the walls about like who was going to play which part. And I'm kind of looking at it, and that's interesting. And so, I don't know, months later, maybe even a year or two later, it was a long time because time kind of runs together for me. Okay? They eventually call me and they say, hey, listen, we appreciate all your input. We want to put you in the show, but the show starts in 1979. You weren't there yet. But we we appreciate what you did for us. We want to put you in the show, and you're going to be. And I didn't. Maybe you guys know this term. I didn't know it. Now I know it. You're going to be what we call an Easter egg.
Mm-hmm.
So an Easter egg is they put somebody like me, like you guys were saying before. I'm not iconic, but I'm kind of recognizable. Like if you're a really true Laker fan, okay. And so somebody that's watching the show is going to go, "That Gary Vitti," you know that. So Easter egg, right? Anyway, I said sure. And so they made me a scout, okay. And they put a wig on me. You know, it's 1979.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't with the team yet in 79, right? I was with the Jazz, actually. Okay. So I had this long hair wig that they put me on, sideburns, polyester shirt. You know what I mean? I look like an idiot, right? And so
platform shoes.
Yeah. So I'm in there, and I have a SAG card, so they got to pay me scale. And I signed a contract to do 2 episodes guaranteed, an option for the 3rd, and it's their option. Cool, let's do it, okay? I arrive, and I will say this, everybody on that set was magnificent. The nicest, most professional people that you'll ever meet. Starting, you get on the lot from the parking attendant to the hair and makeup people and assistants. I mean, everybody just magnificent. And the actors were unbelievable. Okay. I'm looking at John C. Reilly.
Mm-hmm.
This Dr. Bus reincarnated.
He did a hell of a
he
job.
looked like him. He talked like him. He walked like him. He smoked like him. You know, Jason Clarke, looked like Jerry West.
Yeah.
I mean, the acting was great. They had different directors. My director was Jonah Hill. And I had met Jonah several times because he sat next to me because Ari Emanuel and Dever owned those seats. So there was always some sort of, Hollywood celeb actor next to me. Nice guy, great guy. He was my director. Everybody, fantastic. But we start shooting, and they got Jerry West yelling and cursing, and Dr. Bus too, and really mischaracterizing them. And so it was, and not in a good way, like in a very bad way, in my opinion, right? I think everybody's opinion. So I go home and I call Rick, and I go, Foxy, I got to talk to you, man. Like I said, everybody was great. I reiterated all that because they really were. It was magnificent, the people there. I said, but what they're doing to Jerry is a sin, man. He was nothing like that. They got throwing trophies through windows. There were no windows in the forum. There weren't any.
Not in the offices.
Yeah. There was no trophy. I never saw that trophy, right? So he goes, okay, I'll talk to him. So he calls whoever he calls, and they call me back. He calls me back and says, listen, I talked to him, and they appreciate your input. They want you to know that this is a docuseries and not a documentary. And so there'll be a disclaimer and all that. I said, Rick, I get that. I said, but, I grew up watching The Godfather. And supposedly there's characters in there that were based off of real life people, like Johnny Fontaine was supposed to be Sinatra, Don Corleone, I don't know who he is, some mob boss, right? Like a real one in real life. But they didn't use their names.
Right.
You're actually saying that this is Jerry West or Jerry Bus.
Right.
People that don't know them are going to assume that, you know what I mean, is based off of Jeff Pearlman's book, And he said, listen, so there's nothing I can do. Well, I got to go back for the second day because I signed the contract. So more of the same. The second day, John C. Reilly jumps up on what was supposed to be Mary Lou Liebig's desk, and he is screaming at the top of his lungs at everybody to come out of their offices. He wants to talk to everybody because, he had just bought the team, right? Dr. Bus just bought the team. Now, first of all, Mary Lou Liebig did have a desk. And that was about all there was in that space, was room for that desk.
Miss me.
Right.
So there was no space where you can congregate all these people that work for the Lakers. As a matter of fact, a lot of people worked in an office building across the street because there was no office space there.
Right.
So this space didn't exist. Therefore, this meeting could never have existed.
Correct.
He jumps up on Mary Lou Liebig's desk. God bless Dr. Buss, but he would have needed a stepladder to get up on somebody's desk. I mean, he didn't have hops like that.
Right,
you know what I mean? And he's cursing. I bought this fucking team to win a fucking championship. You don't want to win? Get the fuck out of here.
Not Dr.
He
Buss.
didn't talk to people that way. He just didn't. And Jerry West didn't either. Right? Now, did they curse? Yeah, there was a normal level of cursing like all guys do in sports and locker rooms and stuff, but nothing like that. So they call me after the second episode, the second shooting, and they say, okay, we want to exercise the yacht. We appreciate everything you're doing there. And it was weird because you had all these famous actors, but you would have thought that I was the celebrity.
Yeah.
And every single person on that set had read the book. And I could tell because they were coming to me and asking me stuff, right? And even when John C. Reilly was up on the desk, he kind of locked eyes on me during one of the, they shoot the scene and then, okay, cut. Perfect. That was great. Let's do it again.
Right,
it was perfect. Why are we doing it again? Right.
Right.
But, I mean, that's
Hollywood. That's
how it works.
That's how it works.
You do the same thing over and over and over again. I don't know how people do it, right? But at one of these shootings, he locks eyes on me, and then Jonas says, "Cut." He jumps off the desk, and he looks around and goes, "You don't know how much fucking pressure this is to do this in front of Gary Vitti. He's the only guy here that was actually there." Okay? Which this never even happened, so I actually wasn't there. But they just treated me really, really well. And I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so the casting director, she was very nice. She calls me, "You want to exercise the third option?" And I said, "Listen, I signed the contract. Obviously, I have to do it. I will do it." I said, "But you need to know I don't want to do it. I don't feel comfortable doing it. Jerry West is extremely important to me in my life and still is, and his family. You know what I mean? It's very uncomfortable for me to be a part of something that's so disparaging for this man that I think so highly of." She says, "I'll call you right back." Wasn't long, 15 minutes later or whatever, she calls me and says, "Listen, we really appreciate everything you did. Don't worry about, the third one." And I told her I don't want to do the third, but I will because I signed the contract. I'm definitely not doing 4 and 5. Okay? And to your comment that I made a lot of money, first off, that's bullshit. Okay? Buy the book. Mama needs a new pair of shoes. Okay. Actually, we rescued a 138-pound Great Dane.
Great Dane.
A huge dog that needed to be rescued, emaciated, pregnant, the whole bit. They captured her in a junkyard. Nobody wanted her. She's 6, 7 years old. Name is Chantilly, and she eats a lot. Buy the book. Okay. Chantilly needs to eat. Okay.
Yeah, you just did the 6, 7. 6, 7.
Yeah.
7.
Okay. So they left me. They let me off the hook. But I probably left, compared to what they paid me for the 2 episodes, I probably left $35,000 on the table.
Yeah.
Now, $35,000 to Byron Scott.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Wipes his ass with $35,000.
I knew my name get thrown in there somewhere, Jay. But you know what, Gary B? The crazy thing about that, because I watched every episode because Cece wanted to watch it, and she kept asking me shit. Did that really happen? And like you, 79, I was like, babe, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I can't answer that question until it gets to like the last episode where they, show them where Jerry's talking about making a trade for me and all that stuff, right?
Mm.
So I got questions from so many people about, was Jerry West really like that? And I would say, listen, not the Jerry West that I know.
Right.
I said, that's shit is crazy. I said, that's not Jerry West. And somebody who we both love very dearly, and I won't say that name, called me and said, look, we're having a petition that's going out, because this is, and we're getting a lawyer, because the way they're, portraying him, it's not right. I said, I do know. I said, you're right, but I wasn't there for these episodes in 79 to 82, 83.
Yeah, I wasn't either, but I knew the man.
But I knew that wasn't him.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I told this person. I said, I'll sign it because I know that's not him, and you're right.
So
yeah, nobody asked me to sign. I didn't know that. I definitely would have signed that. And I'll give you an example. I don't feel real comfortable doing this, but I will to give you an example. I mean, Jerry cursed.
Oh yeah,
But
of course.
This to me is like one of the moments of Jerry West that I knew Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
So Jerry would make an acquisition. We'd get a player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he'd come down and said, Gary, I want you to watch practice with me today. I said, okay. So usually when Jerry wanted me to talk to me, like just the two of us, I used to tell him later that I was like his enema. Okay. That he like all this pent up shit that he'd have, he'd dump it on me. He'd be mad at Pat Riley, but he couldn't yell at Pat, so he'd yell at me. You know what I mean? And then he'd feel better later.
Yeah.
And that was our little joke that I was his enema, know. So this would be, for me, a perfect example of Jerry. Gary, come and sit with me today. I want to talk to you during practice. See that guy we just got? He's going to be good. Yeah, he's going to be really good. He's going to help us, and he wants to be good. See, that's the key, Gary. He wants to be good. I can tell. Okay. Jerry would fall in love. Right.
Oh yeah.
Okay. 2 weeks later, Gary, I want you to sit with me and practice today. Look at that no good motherfucker.
Same guy, too.
Same guy.
Yeah. Same guy, yeah.
Same guy. Fall in love.
Fall out of love, yeah.
Okay, you know what I mean? So yeah, he would drop an F-bomb, you know what I mean? But nothing like that. And it was always sort of in this sort of like strong tone, but not raising his voice.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bus was the same way. Like, if Dr. Bus needed to be tough, he would be tough.
Right.
But,
right.
What is it? The walk softly and carry a big stick.
Yeah.
I think it was Churchill or something. One of those guys said that. That was Dr. Bus.
Yeah.
Walk softly, carry a big stick,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's Hollywood. And
So is there any truth to did they just definitely misrepresent Perlman's book?
They asked Perlman many times about it, and they stood by it. And Jerry threatened. He said, "I'll take it to the Supreme Court." I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
He actually said that publicly. And HBO said, "Come on, come with it." Okay. After Jerry died, and you can Google this, maybe a couple of weeks after he passed away, Jeff Perlman actually made a public statement that those things didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
The trophy thing going through the window, that it was all made up.
Because
I don't think that was even in, that stuff wasn't in his book. So I think a lot of what Jeff wrote was probably in the show. And then they took their poetic license or whatever you want to call it.
Took it to a different level.
Because there's another the next chapter of his book is during the Byron era and stuff.
Yeah.
So I know they were really trying to push for that to happen. But.
Yeah. I wouldn't do the interview with Jeff after that. Okay. And I like him. I mean, he's, okay.
Yeah.
He's,
but he's a writer.
Now he made money on
I was about to say he's a writer.
Because there's not a lot of money, and anybody wants to write a book, write a book. I think everybody should write a book, okay? but don't think you're gonna make any money
Yeah.
doing it. Now, it was never the
About the
goal
money anyway.
for me. It's
yeah.
mostly my book. If you don't mind me pushing my own book,
No,
No,
go
of
ahead.
it's
course.
really
That's
good
why you here.
for. It's good for young kids coming up because there's so many of life's lessons in there. You know, and Byron, you were there. You were there for all the lessons.
Yeah,
You know, most
yeah.
of them that I was involved with.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, and I got him firsthand too.
Yeah.
It starts kind of my rookie year with the Celtics, the whole rivalry, and the big lesson was Kareem.
Yeah.
After we got blown out in the Memorial Day massacre,
Whooped our
and he
ass.
got up and told everybody he took responsibility
Yeah,
for
he
the whole.
did.
He had a horrible game.
Yep.
Okay,
Sit right in front.
Yeah.
In the video, and it was like, come on, give it to me because I know I played like shit. So Rouse had a 2-hour fucking video session dumping basically on Cap.
yeah,
Mm.
You know, Robert Parrish beat the shit out you. He beat you up and down the floor. He did. And Cap was like,
yeah.
and the Cap they got for the next 5 games, they was like, shit.
He ended up being the MVP of the finals.
Yeah.
But what it taught me was when there's a problem, I think this is kind of the way I worded it. You go in the bathroom, you look in the mirror, and you start with that person.
Yeah.
And you take responsibility for what you did wrong. But then the lesson goes a little bit further because when you do that, then you start beating yourself up over the mistakes that you made.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the process. Like I said, I didn't know this. I learned this. I was 30 years old at the time. It's part of the process, but the quicker you get through that part, the better. Because the real lesson is that we're all going to make mistakes. And then can you learn from your mistake and not make the same mistake again? And then there's sort of a saying in there about, you know, the fool who never learns from their own mistakes, and then the smart person who learns from their own mistakes, and then the wise person who not only learns from their own mistakes, but learns also from the mistakes of others. Okay. And then when you put it all together, you know, never be the fool, try to be smart, always be wise.
Always be wise.
Well, talking about that, our sponsor, Drew Estate Cigars, Byron.
Yeah. Drew Estate Cigars. Hey, guys, it's unfortunate that I don't have one with me, but Brian must have smoked them all. So I didn't have one to pull out because or I took most of them home. But Drew Estate makes the best cigars in the business. If you guys don't know, you can go online or you can go to probably any of your local DrewEstate.com, or you can go to any of your local cigar lounges, and I guarantee you they got Drew Estate cigars, best cigars on the market. I live by them. I smoke them on a daily, well, not a daily basis, but at least twice a week because I play golf twice a week. So Drew Estates, guys, go check them out. DrewEstates.com, best stogies on the market. You said, you know what? You brought up Cap's name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at that particular time, Gary V, at his age-wise, because I think Cap was like 37 when we were in the final.
Yeah.
And how did you help him handle the grind of the NBA regular season playoffs at that age, at that particular time?
Stayed away from him.
Yeah, Cap will whoop your ass. I mean, Cap had a temper.
So he had to do it his way.
Yeah. But you had a relationship with Cap.
We had a great relationship.
Really good relationship.
To be perfectly honest, Kareem was never injured. Okay. The injury that he had in the 79, the 80 final, 79-80, he sprained his ankle.
Yep.
The Magic played center, right?
Yep.
Against Philly. I wasn't there.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So he had that injury, okay, which was sort of an unpreventable injury. You come down on somebody else's foot, right? He broke his hand when he punched out Kent Benson. I wasn't there.
Yep.
But other than those two things,
That's it.
the only other thing was the migraines.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I came in. And he told me that the only thing that seemed to help him was pure oxygen. So we didn't have internet in those days, but, I started calling every specialist that I could and trying to find out some scientific basis for pure oxygen with migraines. And there was none, but it helped him. So I was able to contact like a business that supplied pure oxygen to people, who had emphysema and stuff like that, and have a canister of oxygen delivered to every hotel that we stayed at. And then I carried like the mask and the gauge and all that just in case he needed it. I don't think he used it more than once or twice. It might have been the knowledge that it was there just in case, but it was in an orange box. So I made sure that he saw it, and that, you know what I mean? That as far as he was concerned, if he needed it, it was there. But other than that, hey, the man was doing yoga and he was doing the term core didn't even exist at the time. Like we thought that core were abs. When you're talking to me about core, you're not talking about abs. Okay. When you're talking to me about core, I like to think about it as the core of an apple. So we're talking about the deep pelvic floor muscles. The women, if there's any women watching this, they know what I'm talking about because Kegel exercises that they do postpartum after they have babies and, incontinence and stuff like that. When you do yoga, you're working on those types of core muscles. Okay? So Kareem had been doing that. And you remember Malik? Yeah. Malik Mansour?
Yeah, his boy that was a photographer.
Yeah. So Malik and Kareem were always doing these yoga and core things. And I was watching him, and I remember Malik saying to me, the game's played between here and here. So like the nipple line and like mid-thigh. And, it made a lot of sense to me because in those days, like now we talk about it all the time, at least I do anyway, about how we transfer load from your lower extremity through your pelvis to your upper extremity. So, when we're talking about load management and core strength and all that, that's what we're talking about, okay? Can you transfer load from your lower extremity through your pelvis to your upper extremity, which another way to put it more colloquially maybe, can you carry your center of gravity through space as you're moving in an uncontrolled manner, which is a game. It's not the training room. It's not the human performance laboratory. It's not drill work. It's 5 on 5. We cannot create that. We can't, no matter how hard we try. We could fill the arena and with people for a practice and have an inter squad scrimmage. It's not the same, right? It's not.
Right. Okay? Just like practice is not the same 5 on 5.
It's not the same. You can't. I mean, maybe one thing that'll make sense, you can almost dog it a little bit in practice, maybe not get back, full tilt on defense. What do you do? Take you out of practice?
Right.
Okay. They need you.
Yeah, you do it in the game.
You do it in the game. You're coming out.
Take your ass out. Yeah.
Yeah, you're coming out. You're going to sit down.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand for people that aren't in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And live it. You know, and so you have to be there and see it and live it and understand it. And then you get it like, oh, so that's what's going on out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Dodgers last night, 18 innings. Neither team gave up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Neither team, which reminds me of the 88 back-to-back 3 7-game series, which I talk about in the book. Back-to-back hadn't been done in 19 years.
Right.
Tremendous feat on our part.
Yeah.
But 3 7-game series?
Right.
That might have been a bigger feat than actually winning the back-to-back.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you might. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
We played a total of 24 playoff
out of a possible
games.
26.
That's correct. Okay?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Gary V, I was talking to Veronica, she's head of ticketing. I saw her about a month ago and we were talking. She's like, Jay, you remember when you worked for the team, there was probably only 40 employees. Now there's like 300
Yeah.
that work for the organization. And it got me thinking, like, how much work you actually did during that time, because there was 12 players, 2 coaches, you, and maybe Rudy. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Talk to our audience on actually what you had to do behind the scenes to make things happen, especially on road trips.
Yeah. There's one slight correction. There was 2 coaches on the bench. We had a third coach,
yeah.
but he was the advanced scout.
Okay.
So he wasn't really around very much.
Right.
And when I came, it was Dave Walls, great guy, great coach.
Yep.
Ended up coaching Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah.
And not just that, he's probably had every position you could possibly have in the NBA, from player to assistant coach to scout to general manager. I mean, everything but
head
owner.
coach, yeah.
Yeah. He's done it all. So there was that guy there too. You know, I don't know what to tell you about that, because it's one of those things that I tell people, there's no replacement for experience.
Mm.
And you could be the most educated person in the world, and most talented person in the world in many ways, but there's something about experience, being there, seeing it, doing it, or seeing somebody else do it, so that when it happens, you know what to do. And it may be something that's never happened before, but because of all the other things that have happened, that collectively that experience has given you an instinct, okay, as to how to handle this situation. So coming in, first one there, last one to leave. I didn't end up that way, but I started that way. And you were kind of the eyes and the ears for both sides. And we talked about my longevity. You know, I'm not sure if that had anything to do with me as much as it did the people that I worked for. The Dr. Busses, the Jerry Wests, the Mitch Kupchaks, those guys that we had a relationship with, where we were all, the Pat Riley, where we were all on the same page. And I write about this in the book, that, you know, there has to be short-term goals, mid-range goals, long-term goals. And there has to be a path that usually comes from experience to get there. And I think it's Dean Martin. They asked him about, like, how do you make such good decisions? He goes, oh, that comes from experience. And they said, well, you know, tell us about the experience. He goes, well, the good decisions come from making bad decisions. And then you learn from him, like I was saying before, okay? So being with these guys like Jerry West and Pat Riley and Mitch that have been in the league and had their share of losses, okay, and learning from them, I was able to kind of figure out how to navigate through this. I didn't always make the right decision, but I had really good people behind me that when I didn't, like I remember Pat pulling me over on the side once and very quietly saying, you didn't handle that very well, you know? And it was something where I got mad, I raised my voice, right? I mean, he didn't have to do it that way. He could have embarrassed me in front of everybody, but he wasn't like that. These guys weren't like that. They wanted to be successful, and they wanted everybody that was there to be successful. We were a family. And I say this, I get a little emotional about this. Family's like a team. Sometimes you get mad at your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad. Okay, but you don't stop loving them. Okay, you work it out. And so, you know, I was in with that group that I could go to Jerry West and tell him something that was going on down there, And he'd go, yeah, who? I'm not telling you that. I'm just telling you this, there's some unrest down there. I don't want you to do anything about it. I'll keep you posted. If it escalates, it's not coming as a complete surprise to you, is all. Okay. And then there might be other times when I went up there and I told them who, what, when, and where. Okay. And then there was other times I didn't say anything. There might have been stuff going on, but I just didn't say anything. It was just normal bad behavior or whatever that was going to play itself out. And as a player, I would go to my players. And when I say go to them, I'm not talking about talk to them as a group, but you kind of figure out how to communicate, what makes a guy tick, and you make them understand, listen, man, I'm the eyes and ears down here for ownership, management, coaches. That doesn't mean I'm going to go up there and tell them what's going on with every little thing. But don't put me in a position where I have to. Okay? And so somebody might be going sideways, and I would try to rail them in and say, hey, listen, man, you got to chill. Like, everybody knows what you're doing. You're not fooling anybody. And if I know, it's not going to be long before everybody else knows, And so I'm not sure if this is completely answering your question, but it was a part of it. And then there was the whole travel situation. Because we had such a small, intimate group, somebody had to be the person that the airline was going to speak to, the hotel was going to speak to, okay? The bus company was going to speak to. It wasn't going to be the coaches, okay? It certainly couldn't be the players. That only left me, okay? And so if one of those entities needed to communicate with us, then I was the guy that they called. If on our end that we needed something from them, we needed something at the hotel or whatever, okay, then I was that person to call them. I remember we played in Philadelphia, and then we bussed up to Washington to play what was then the Bullets. And we played out of the Cap Center, remember? So this wasn't like where the Wizards play now.
Right.
It was out in the middle of nowhere.
It was like Cleveland's arena.
Yeah,
way out there.
at Ridgefield Arena, it was like that, right?
Yep.
And so we stayed on the Beltway at that shitty Marriott that was there, okay? And so we're busing from Philly to D.C. because there weren't any flights in those commercial flights or whatever, And we're pulling into this hotel, and it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, by the time we got there, right? And Riley looks over at me and says, we had practice, a shoot around a schedule at the Cap Center way out there. He looks over and he goes, there's no way I want to go all the way out to the Cap Center tomorrow. Find another place that we can shoot around tomorrow morning. It's 2 or 3 in the morning, all right? And shoot around is going to be like 10 o'clock, right? Which means, you got to have the bus there at 9:30, okay? So I looked over and go, Pat, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, I can't find another gym at this hour. Very calmly, he looked over at me and he said, well, did you try? Like, of course I didn't try. You just told, you know what I mean? No, we'll try. I went to my room. There was no cell phones in those days.
Right.
Okay. I got on the hotel phone. I called John Lally, who's the trainer for the Bullets. Okay. Told him I needed another gym. He called Georgetown University, their trainer there, okay, Laurie Michaels. Okay. We shot around at Georgetown University the next morning. Taught me a huge lesson.
Did you try?
Okay. Yeah. and this is what I talk about. Now, Kobe obviously wasn't there, but this is something that Kobe Bryant figured out. He took can't and won't out of his lexicon.
That's right.
And I did too that night. When he asked me, when I said I can't, he said, did you try? No. Once I tried, it happened.
Yeah.
And it was a lesson
Yeah.
for me.
That's a hell of a lesson.
So, it was this sort of all-encompassing thing. It just wasn't the sports medicine aspect of it. It was everything. But in a way, and I've said this to Pat, I said, since you and I were together and you left, my life got a lot easier. Okay. and he laughed. I said, but I didn't say it was better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It got easier sort of over the years because now you're adding people into the mix to take the load off of you.
And that experience that you had and gained. Yeah.
Okay. But then you got to manage them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're in the back of your mind, did they do this, did they do that? You don't want to be that person like, did you do this, did you do that? You got to trust people to do, you know what I mean? And then what if they didn't do it, didn't get it done, or didn't do it the way you wanted, didn't get it done right? Then what do you do? How do you handle that? Because, the guys that I worked with, like I said, Jerry and Pat and Mitt, I mean, they handle those things pretty well. That I had to learn a lot of that because I'm hot-head Italian. You know what I mean? Like,
I've been on the other end.
You fucked it up. You know what I mean?
I've been on the other end.
You know what I mean? What the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I mean? I didn't do that, but I think I might have done that.
Yeah,
no, you did that.
I remember you doing that a few times. Yeah. I'm just saying. Hey, Gary, I want to ask you a question. A chapter in the book that I love. Talent, the most overrated thing in life. Explain that.
Well,
I
learned that lesson
but explain
Kobe.
that. Yeah.
From Kobe. Okay. So everybody that looks at Kobe looks at him as this talented, unbelievable, one of the greatest basketball players that has ever lived. And I get that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you looked at Kobe through my eyes, okay, you don't actually see that. Like if you didn't know him, you didn't work with him, you didn't know any of this can't vote, stuff. Okay. So what I saw was he big? Yeah, compared to me, he was big, but by NBA standards, he wasn't that big.
Right.
Okay. Was he quick? Yeah. Yeah. Was he fast? Yeah. But by NBA standards, could he jump? Sure, but he didn't have like a 42-inch vertical. It wasn't Zach LaVine or, you know what I mean?
Right.
One of these high flyers. He wasn't that, he wasn't any of those things. Okay? So what was there about him that he ends up with 5 rings and more talented or gifted, maybe talent's not the right word, gifted players have none. Okay? And then you have to do the deep dive. What was there about him? So let's start with work ethic. Off the chart. A lot of guys work hard. Okay, a lot of guys work hard. And Kobe worked as hard or harder than anybody, but it was also a little bit different in the sense that a lot of guys can work hard. Not everybody works smart. Okay, he was really. Kobe's an extremely intelligent guy, extremely intelligent guy. Everything about him was calculated, almost choreographed, okay? Before he went out there, because he learned from not only his mistakes of others, okay? He would watch, he would prepare, okay? I don't think he ever went into anything unprepared, okay?
Yeah.
Like he might have known the opposition's offense better than they knew it. Okay. They probably had guys on the team that probably didn't know some options that he knew. Okay? He was that. So everything he did was not just hard work, but really smart. Okay. Tougher than anybody, literally tougher than anybody I've ever known. And once again, taking the can't and won't out of his lexicon and putting it can and will. Little known fact, he told me that he got waterboarded because he wanted to see what the big deal was. He was hanging out with some Navy SEALs, and he got water. You know what waterboarding is? When they were
waterboarding.
Yeah,
Is
like
it?
when Guantanamo, when after 9/11, they were waterboarding the prisoners. So they put like a towel over they lay you down, they tie you down.
Yeah.
And then
Okay,
they
gotcha.
pour water like you're drowning.
Right.
Yeah.
He let them do that to him. Who does
So his
that?
choice. By choice, he let him do it.
By choice.
Nah.
Okay.
nah.
Is he trying to build a tolerance?
Yeah, well, it was like a mental
Something to do.
exercise for him. Okay, he knew he wasn't going to drown. He knew that none of those guys drowned that they did that to. Okay, so can you handle it or not? Okay, did we on the last episode? Did we talk about the Saw movie? Didn't we talk about Saw? No.
I don't think so either.
So we're on the plane. Like, to me, this is because I believed him. So you know the movie Saw?
Yeah.
So I had never
Saw
heard of
1,
it.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember it might have been 1 because I had never heard of it. And he's got the disc. He comes running back to my seat, and he gets to me, goes, "I could do it. I know I could do it." And he handed it to me, and he walked away. That was it. I had no idea what he was talking about. Well, I popped the DVD in, and I'm watching this sick-ass movie, right? and I'm sure everybody knows what it is by now, but it's a guy that he kind of the basis of it that I think he's going to die. And he's like pissed off that these other people that are healthy are like these miserable people. So he's going to teach them a lesson, okay, about how you should be grateful for your health, which is kind of a lesson that's in the book, but unrelated to Saw.
Right.
Okay. And so what he does is he captures them, and like he'll put them in a room, and for instance, they'll be chained at the ankle, and the only thing in the room will be a hacksaw. So you got to like saw your foot off.
Yeah.
All right. And if you do, then he'll let you live. Okay. Otherwise you die. Okay. So, but this episode was called the reverse bear trap. Okay. So you know what a bear trap is. You step in it and the thing.
Yep.
So this is the reverse bear trap.
Okay.
So, he gets you and he drugs you, and then you wake up in the situation. And so the reverse bear trap is he puts this thing on your head, and the reverse bear trap is in your mouth. So if it snaps, it instead of the trap coming this way, it's the reverse bear. It goes this way, and it rips your skull in 2 pieces. And you die, right? And there's a lock, and the key to the lock has been surgically embedded behind your eyeball. So the only thing when you get in there is this thing's on your head, and there's a video of like an X-ray of,
your skull that you can see the key.
Yeah. And, telling you this is what, if you want to live, this is what you got to do. And the only thing you're left with is a scalpel. So you got to cut your own eyeball out to get the key to unlock it, to take thing off your head, and then you live. Okay. That's the test, right? And he came back to hand this to me and look me straight in the eye and tell me that he could do it. And you want to know what?
You believed him.
I believe him.
Yeah.
I believed him 100%. Okay. Okay. Because
I believe him too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the way he was.
That's the way he was built.
He was competitive. Okay. He was an enigma, but he had to win. He had to.
At all costs.
At all costs. And I see, if you played one of my little daughters in a game of tiddlywinks, okay, you would beat him. Okay, you'd make it a point to beat a little girl in a game of tiddlywinks, because if you couldn't out-talent them with your tiddlywinks, I don't even know what tiddlywinks is, but if you couldn't out-talent them, you would outluck them, and if you couldn't outluck them, you'd out-cheat them. Okay, but you would win.
Would still win.
You would win. Okay, and some of these things like that, I don't think that's learned behavior. That's something that is there. It's, like Michelangelo, the sculptor, the painter and the sculptor.
Mm-hmm.
He used to say that whatever he was sculpting, okay, that was already inside the stone. He just took a hammer and a chisel and he let it out.
Yeah, brought it out.
And I believe that about Kobe, that he had these instincts and he had these characteristics that were inside there. And then through experiences and through people around him, people he loved and trusted, when they needed to come out, they came out.
Mm-hmm.
We're having such a great time with Gary Vitti that we have to make this a 2-part episode.
Yeah,
so we'll be right back with more Gary Vitti from the LA Lakers right after this. Thank you for watching Byron Scott's Fast Break. If you like what you saw, here's some more videos. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.